So anyway, this is the cooler experiment. It's not an experiment. But anyway, I wanted a freezer so I could pick up groceries and not worry about racing home. I'm about 25 minutes from a grocery store. And you know, middle of summertime, stuff starts to melt. So I wanted it for that. I also wanted it for camping, so you could keep frozen treats out there if you wanted to outside. But this was the fun. So I've got these expensive Stihl batteries laying around that run the chainsaw. Chainsaw works great, but I don't need that chainsaw very often. So these good batteries are sitting around doing nothing. And I know they're going to sell, you can pre-buy a battery for these electric coolers, right? Let me turn this thing off. That's it. But it was before I opened the lids at -4. Anyway, the experiment that I did was I wanted to see from a dead warm start, lid open, you know, just sitting there doing nothing. If I put one of these batteries in, which is a 36 volt, what does it say there? 7.2 amp hour battery, which is hard to believe. I would have thought it'd be bigger than that because this is a big, heavy battery. Whatever, that's what it says. I had somebody, relative of mine, print up that. You know who you are, thank you. 3D printed that. We made electrodes out of some old copper pipe and shoved them through the hole. So he did that. So I had a base that would plug into these Stihl batteries. I want to do it with my Ridgid shop tool batteries. That's next. I ordered those. Those you can buy online, but I didn't see any aftermarket commercially available, like on Amazon or something, sockets for these Stihl batteries, of which I have 2. So anyway, here's what I did. Just made this thing of a thing lift off of here, right? And unplug. Now they do, or they will be selling a battery for it that fits in that hole. Otherwise this cover goes on it. But they want 189 bucks for the battery. And I had these batteries sitting here doing nothing most of the time. So this is what I did. Made an aluminum L bracket. That's a buck converter you can get on Amazon for about 20 bucks. That converts 36 volts. I think it's 18 to 48 volts, anywhere in that range. 36 is right in the middle. To 12 volts DC at 20 amps is the one that I got. I think they make them in 10 amp too, which would have been big enough for this, but I had that one. So that's it. I stuck this from my metal stash under the screws and put some washers in there so the handle's not any weaker than it was before. Same screws, screw into a metal plate in there inside the cooler. This metal thing, I have no idea what it was from. Some kind of spring steel, something from an old dead printer. I don't know. But you saw what happens. This goes in here. Boop, boop. Boop. Hangs in there. Right? I can't operate it right now with one hand, but you can get this plug in there. Where is it? Get in there. Plug it in, that's it. The other part you couldn't see, then this just slips in the slot. Oops. Like that. And I just have a rubber band to hold it to make sure it doesn't flop. But anyway, the other thing I did was to make it, I don't know, modular. I don't know what the right word would be. There's a plug on there. So out of this whole system, if you want to remove it and you separate the part that plugs in the cooler down there, that's only about a 10-inch cord that has that cooler plug on one end and the other end of this on the other. So I can just remove this, plug it into the cigarette lighter in the car if I want, or remove everything and plug it into house power if I want. But anyways, it's the fun that if you get those cheapy Amazon buck converters, they're something like 96% efficient. So they do a pretty good job. If you've got lithium batteries like this, or big ones for a scooter, or even shop batteries laying around, why not make yourself something fun like, you know, frozen treats at the campfire, all on battery power. The experiment that I did was that, probably I'm repeating myself, this thing in a fully charged battery, totally warm cooler, warm start. Takes about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to get it to -4, so cold. One last thing, what I was trying to say, and I think I failed, was since I have 2 batteries, and it takes about half the capacity of one to get it all the way down to negative temperatures, and then it would probably stay there for, I don't know, I don't want to test until the battery's, you know, dead, but my point is, if I take 2 batteries and throw them in the car, since lithiums typically don't degrade sitting on the shelf, right? A month from now, I go to use this, it's fine. I should be able to just start it up in the car, and it'll get cold before I get there, throw my frozen stuff in it. Even if I want to stop and go for a bike ride or whatever, no big deal. Switch out the battery that's already sitting there in the car with it, and I ought to be able to run this thing and keep stuff frozen for probably, if I were guessing, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours at least, no problem. And I guess you could increase, well, if you were driving and you wanted to plug in the cigarette lighter, you could increase your time too, but I didn't want to fool with any of that. I wanted it to have be no thinking. Just get in the car and go, but plug the battery in, that's it. That's all you got to remember to do, and you'll have frozen stuff. So that's it, bye-bye. Thanks for watching. The cooler goes, and that took about half its capacity. So if you were going to run to the grocery store, I guess that's what I was fantasizing about, with zero planning and forethought, like, you know, plugging it in the day before. If you didn't want to do that, you just want to not even think about anything, and you decide, I'm going to go to the grocery store and I'm going to get some frozen stuff, but then I got some other shopping to do, I could just throw this on there, start up the cooler, throw it in the car, nothing to plug in the cigarette lighter. It's not going to make my car battery go dead when I'm parked. I can go in, get my groceries, put some frozen stuff in here, and it's going to keep it cold, certainly long enough for me to finish shopping and running a few errands. That's all I wanted. Then I can come home, pop this off, and throw it on the chainsaw charger, and bada bing. Alright, I didn't do a very good job of showing the nuts and bolts of it. So that's the Stihl battery. I have no design skills with 3D design, but my brother's got a 3D printer. So we sat there and had a couple cocktails, and over the phone he told me what he wanted measured, exactly where. And we lucked out that I guess I took pretty good measurements, and he had a pretty good idea of what measurements he specifically needed, and he was able to 3D print this base. And we made 2 of them. One of them runs an electric wheelchair just for fun and giggles, super old school, almost like a Halloween Dr. Evil kind of chair, but whatever. He made me 2 bases. This is one. All I needed to do was physically make it hang here and plug in. As far as the electrics, like I said, this is the actual thing from Amazon, I think it was. Like I said, about 20 bucks. And it'll handle a range of inputs, and it outputs, well, you buy it to output exactly what you're wanting. In this case, I knew what the cooler ran on. Apparently it can run on 24 volts too, but I wanted to make it run on the cigarette lighter, which is 12 volts in the car, obviously. So figured this was the way to go. I actually had this that I ordered before because it was on sale, and I was anticipating doing some projects where some of my lithium batteries would somehow, I have 48 volt lithium batteries also, would power something that was 12 volts for car accessories. Alright, moving on. So there's the wiring ball. All I thought was, how can I make this fit? That'll slip in the hole. You saw how it works. You didn't see this though, that I soldered, like I said, that plug on here. This little pigtail just goes up to that, which plugs into this. If you want to remove that whole thing and make it just work on the cigarette lighter. So that's more of a nuts and bolts view of what it is. That's it. Simple. They make a battery, but like I said, it's 200 bucks for the battery. The battery specs said it was 11.1 volt, and I think approximately 15 amp hour battery. So when I was scheming, I sort of wanted to emulate that, and I can't imagine how that battery would have higher capacity than this, but maybe it does. I don't know. This works just fine. I could also run it with the 48 volt scooter batteries I have. Those are huge. They're 20 amp hour 48 volt for running an e-bike and or an electric scooter. Those would certainly work from this. I don't know if you can hang it very easily, so you could roll it around, but in a separate little bag you could, you know, take the battery and plug it in. But fun little project. These things are pretty cool. All those lawnmowers that I fooled with are what financed this, because I am cheap and I would never buy something like this just because. But because I was able to sell off all those mowers, made a little bit of cash, and well, turned it into something fun. So that's it. That was more of the nuts and bolts of how the thing works. And the next thing I'm going to do is I ordered a bunch of these. Hold on. A bunch of these that accept, I think they're like $11. They accept my 4 amp hour Ridgid batteries. So I camp a lot. When I go camping, I have the battery powered fans that work great for sitting in front of your lawn chair or something like that when it's real hot. They are fantastic. So I already have chargers and batteries on board the camper for that. So if I make this, where all I got to do is slap 3 of the batteries on there, I'll make a different plate with a different inverter that has an 18 volt input and 12 volt output. I ordered that also. My plan is to make 3 parallel Ridgid tool batteries that are 4 amp hours each. With that inverter, drop it to 12 volts, and bada bing, there you go. I could have made it more efficient, I guess, if I did 18 volt. Well, no. That's what I'm going to do. 3 parallel 18 volt batteries. Then they go through that buck converter that's coming that'll convert them to 12 volts. And that should be a big enough capacity to easily run this thing also. And I think it'd be pretty cool to have frozen alcoholic beverages like pudding shots or things like that, and be able to wheel it over to the campfire all on battery power and keep everything frozen. That'd be pretty slick. So that'll be fun too. All right, thanks for watching. All right, hold on. We got the Ridgid tool battery to work on. The Stihl's figured out. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to hang it on this side between the rails, just with a piece of electrical wire with insulation on it, so it's you know, doesn't scratch up the paint. It'd be a little fiddly to get these slid in and out, but you can do it. And then well, here's the plan. This will hang vertically between those two handles, and there's 15 inches between the handles. There's more than enough. These can be squeezed together tighter, but that's what I'm thinking. And that would be 16 amp hours at 18 volts, which ought to run this thing for a goodly while, especially if you pre-chilled it. I'm assuming hours. I'm gonna make the cord, I think. See the screws for the handles? I think I'll back those out and just make room for a very thin, if it's like the other one, there's like a ½ inch of screw that goes past the metal inside the cooler, so you're not losing any strength. I got news for you. Threads don't hold anything when they're past the material that they're holding with. Anyway, I'm going to run little strain relief, you know, little clips, and a wire will run from up here where the business end of all the batteries clips on, back there, around and down, and plug in that way. And then when you get ready to wheel it around, you just grab it. It'll hang from the handles. If you don't want the handle sticking out, you know, it'll be, like I said, maybe I'll put a piece of felt in there or some such, but one way or the other, you'll be able to get the handle in, and that ought to sit there and run. That way you're not blocking any vents on this end. Same idea with this end. I wanted to make sure I didn't block any vents with that plate. That's a smaller package, but as I said before, I don't have a second Stihl battery charger, so I'm not going to be using it for that. All right, let's get going. All right, if I didn't specify, I think this is now squeezed in as tight as I can get it, which will fit in a less than 14-inch space. All the wires will get wadded up cleanly down here and pinned down with some zip ties to the board. Put something soft on the back side so it doesn't rub on the cooler, bounce around the car. Just, you know, adhesive back felt pads for like cabinet corner bumpers type thing. And anyway, I'm going to orient these this way so that when it's hanging vertically on the end of the cooler, like that, you'll have access to the clips on all the batteries to get them separated, and the button to see where you're at with what capacity is left in the battery. I'm not sure that'll be trustworthy if they're all in parallel, or if you'll be getting... No, I should, because the board's connected to that battery itself. I don't think it's the outs. Yeah, I think that'll work. So anywho, I pinched these in there too tight, I can see now. Spread them out so you can get your fingers in here to reach the releases. The batteries will slide off the sides and they clip on, so you don't have to worry about the batteries falling out. Unlike that Stihl battery, you do. Or you have to rubber band it down. These will be definitely attached better. So, all right, that's the plan. I figured just this top corner and the bottom was enough because that's all the bolts I had. You know, note to anybody listening, it's a good idea. Harvest everything. I almost never have to go to the hardware store to buy nuts and bolts anymore, and it's been years. And every time something dies, I don't care. An inkjet printer, whatever. Recycle the parts you can recycle, then take everything apart. There's a million of these, you know, cone head machine screws type things, and make yourself bins and throw them in there, and you always got what you need without running to the store. Well, not always, but it helps. Torque test with just 2 screws. Okay, that might not have been legit, but how much torque are you going to put on it? Come on, that's enough. That's enough. I do wonder though. Yeah, see, if I was going to hang it from these top corners, well, you can't see it from that angle, but it's going to have a tendency to whoop ass towards the cooler. I'll figure that out later. Anywho, yeah, all 4 of these, let me get them mounted. Well, let's purdy her up some. I, for one, only deal in the highest quality of paints. Nope, got them at auction for less than $1 a can. You don't have to worry about fumes and overspray. See, it's important your technique is you gotta let off the ends like this. Alright, maybe not. Anyway, let me get this thing painted. Is there such a thing as too cheap? Nope. This piece of wood in the first place was some kind of packing crate material from something I ordered from China, from Amazon.com. I think I know what it was. It was some kind of the world's cheapest particle board shelf, but it had these on the outside for packaging. It was like it's thicker. It's almost 1/4 inch plywood, but it's cheap stuff. But hey, it's good for project stuff, isn't it? Cheap. You know, don't do what I do. This is not a how-to. This is just what I get up to. So just relax. Anyway, yeah. This is what I got so far. I'm cutting all these wires off. I'm gonna use these because none of this thing is waterproof. So why should I start now with marine shrink tubing and whatnot? I'm gonna do it the easy way. So yeah, these are gonna be, I don't have any 4-way, but I have 5-way connectors, which would be fine. I'm gonna tie all the hots together and all the grounds together, and bada bing, that's it. Then the only thing there should be left is skadoot. Those two is the output. Those should put out 12 volts. I'll put a longer wire on those, and then I'll have that what's the name of it? XT60 plug on it that mates up with the cord I already made for the cooler. You know, the doodad that goes from one of those to that special plug that goes in the cooler at 12 volts from your cigarette lighter type of thingy. That's it. Let me get going. Hey though, how about that paint job? Huh? Come on. I blue Loctited all the nuts. I'm gonna pad the back with some felt like I said, but yeah, I think we're in good shape. Let me snip off all these wires and make the connections. Well, I know I said I wasn't gonna, but I'm gonna have to solder and shrink tube because the wires aren't long enough. Okay, moment of truth. Triple check. Power out. I got it wired up here over to the meter. So that should be 12 volts DC. And yeah. As soon as I plug a battery in there, we should know. There. How'd you like that crummy soldering job? It just, it's not my skill set, but I can get it done. Not very well. They're definitely solidly connected. These I'm not so sure about, but like I said, I don't want to fool with a 5-way solder joint and twist cap. I guess I could. This one I don't think has room, but I don't know if I want to fool with it. I know how I am. I'll do that just to be sure. Once we do this testing, I'll solder that, then I eliminate any wiring situations. All right, so far so good. Connection number 1 is 12 volts. 12 volts. Give me it. Stop it. Scoot over, meter. 12 volts. And 12 volts. All right. Using beeswax. When I hook this on there, is it going to explode? House burns down, right? Oh, they're parallel. So if one works, they all work, type of thing. All right, then. We're in good shape. I just got to clean this up and get it away to hang on the cooler over there and solder on one of those there special yellow connector things after I get the cord to the right length. And well, I guess we're set. All right, moving on. Here goes some strain relief. Zip tie on the cord itself, then a zip tie through the board and on the cord, so it can't pull the one zip tie through the other zip tie. Boom. Get. Well, some people lose their minds when they see you snipping these off. So there's that. This is just sitting on there because I'm getting ready to hot glue gun these wires down in place. I think that's the best way. I don't feel like drilling 1,000 holes and zip tying them because they're just going to sit right there. They can't move much anyway. So we're going to hot glue them. Then all I got to do is solder on that other end of that plug wire and hang it. Okay, it's probably overkill. That's right. So we got plug on there. The Stihl battery one's disconnected. And that's what we look like. We're dead hot start in here. I haven't plugged in or nothing. Let's do a test. There's the wire, just wrapped it around the handle type of thing. We're gonna see if the batteries alone from a dead warm start, nothing in the cooler, can slap it up to -4 like it's supposed to be. All right. All right. I got her plugged in. Lights are on. Shutting the door. Whoop. All right. Well, make some room, cooler. All right, can you see that? Well, that's exactly what the other one said. These things, Amazon, Chinesium-made buck transformers, they seem to be spot on. They said they're going to make 12 volts, they make 12 volts. Or, 11.789. It seemed like. So, let's just see. The last time this was on, it's set on -4. And then I think you got to press that and then that to get, yeah, so the right side's on -4 also. Let's just let it go. Let's just see. So the batteries themselves, I believe when I press the testers, all of them have 4 bars on the Ridgid tool batteries. So, all right, I'm not gonna press all 4 for the camera, but trust me, I just did. So I'm gonna then put this in time lapse and let it run and see what it takes to get all the way down to -4 everywhere, how much of the batteries are sucked up. Now, that's not the way I would use it. The way I'd use it would be cool it down at the house, or if we're camping with the buddies, you know, cool it down on AC power and you get ready to go hang out with the buds someplace remote. Then I'd slap all my tool batteries on there and go when it's already cold. But let's just see. I'm gonna put it in time lapse and just let it see what it does. All right, I cut it off there because that's enough time. It will work. It's already been an hour. Nothing down here is warm, by the way. Looks like there's 3 bars left on 2 of the batteries and 4 left on the other 2. You know, I don't know how good of an indicator that actually is, but it would work. I think it makes more sense, as I already said, if you're going to use this thing, you pre-chill it, but it would do it. It's going to take probably an hour and a half to get it down to -4, but it won't be empty either. If you were to throw a whole bunch of frozen stuff in there and then turn everything on, you know, that's going to help as a cold sink to make it faster. So anyway, I'm happy. My Ridgid tool battery is going to run this thing. And hey, thanks for watching. Good luck with your projects.